Tonight on Business Live, Chamber of Bulk Oil Distributors warns serious challenges with supply of dollars must be addressed to avert fuel prices hikes at the pump.
When you thoroughly look at the issues, you realize that the issue really is not even just the fact that there's a total absence of liquidity, but the pricing does not effectively match that liquidity.
Also, Veterinary Services Department appeals for operational funds to help fight the bird flu disease.
Any operational fund that has been disbursed to the regional veterinary officer to carry out this disinfection, I and my staff, we are using our own monies.
Plus, economist Professor Peter Quarter is urging more investments in large-scale commercial farming to boost agriculture, which contributed significantly to economic growth in the first quarter of the year.
The next step for me to see is support to some selected large-scale commercial farmers who will pull the small-scale farmers along the value chain, like we find in the areas of Blue Skies, for instance.
I am Beverly Broohm. Please stay for details. Hello and welcome. The Chamber of Bulk Oil Distributors has warned that there are serious challenges with supply of dollars that must be addressed to avert fuel price hike at the pumps. A recent report by Bloomberg said that Ghana may experience a shortage in fuel supply due to dwindling forex reserves. However, the National Petroleum Authority has assured there are adequate measures to prevent a shortfall. The following report has more.
In recent times, fuel prices have seen increases at the pumps, burdening consumers. Reports by Bloomberg suggesting that Ghana's forex reserves are dwindling and that could lead to fuel shortage alarmed industry watchers. Speaking to journalists via Zoom, Chief Executive of the Chamber of Bulk Oil Distributors, Senor Hossi, stated that the foreign exchange challenges must be addressed.
Definitely, when demand outstrips supply, prices go up. That's the first thing that the market will show. Now, we have a situation where there's a lot of efforts to sort of stagger demand in a way that will negatively impact prices. And maybe that's where the problem is. While we sometimes see there's a challenge with supply from the commercial banks, when you thoroughly look at the issues, you realize that the issue really is not even just the fact that there's a total absence of liquidity, but the pricing does not effectively match that liquidity.
According to Bloomberg, the monthly fuel import bill for Ghana jumped to $450 million in May from $250 million in January. Making suggestions, Mr. Hossi stressed that it was imperative for the Bank of Ghana to ensure consistent supply of the dollar.
So the central bank has a responsibility from a policy side, but operationally, it is not a sole entity responsible to deliver the FX to the oil and gas sector. So now we need $450 million thereabout on a monthly basis. The central bank has a responsibility to make sure that the market can supply that, but it hasn't got a responsibility to be the one supplying it. So if the central bank has to scale down and is unable to actually supply or provide that 450 million on its own, there are no problems provided the general market can deliver. So do we have, to answer your question more directly, if the central bank does not extend or expand its supply provision under its current BDC option, would there be a shortage? Not necessarily. But that can be the case if its absence in the market is not effectively compensated by supply coming from the open or commercial banks. That is when you're actually going to have a crisis. So there must be a balance. A central bank, in effect, is supposed to be a point of almost last resort, or trying to make sure it uses its intervention to stabilize any speculation that may be happening in the market at any given point in time.
So joining us with some thoughts on this is Dr. Yusuf Sulemana, who is an energy specialist. He joins us via Zoom. Thank you so much for your time. The Chamber of Bulk Oil Distributors is assuring we have enough fuel, but once forex exchange challenges must be addressed to avert price hikes. Is that reassuring enough for consumers?
Yeah, thank you very much. And good afternoon or good evening to you and your cherished viewers, Ghana and across the globe. Yes, that's indeed a worrying trend. We always mention that if you look at what the consumer pays at the pump, three things are accountable for that. One will be the taxes, the other one will be the exchange rates, and then the prevailing prices in the global space or within the global space. Where we thought that prevailing prices, like crude oil prices within the global space, was the wild card here. Now it is now emerging that I think the exchange rate that we have been talking about is becoming also a serious bottleneck. Yeah, so I think consumers should have some cause to worry because the BDC, they just have so much they can do. They have done so well within the years, but the global dynamics that is unfolding could have the potential to overpower them. And what are the global dynamics? We have a lot of disruptions in supply chain, and Russian-Ukraine war has just come to exacerbate the situation. So should it come to a point that, the BDCs have they lost the capability of getting product into the country, that is going to become very difficult. So they could have even the dollars required, but the supply chain, the bottleneck within the space, outside space, could still, impede the ability to be able to bring in finished product. But over the years, I think they did creditably well, and they deserve some commendation. But I think there are just so much they can do, So yes, consumers should be worried, but I think we should just hold our gun and just make sure that we stand and watch, see what the BDCs, the central bank, and NPA, they can galvanize their forces together to forestall any potential fuel shortages.
Okay, the central bank is struggling to balance the country's import bill, which doubled from $250 million in January to $450 million in May. What's your thoughts on it?
Yeah, so that is interesting, and I think that's understandable. If you look at Bloomberg report, even though they are saying they are trying to hide, where they are trying to say they don't want to disclose the source, but even without any source, if you look at, where the product prices have skyrocketed to, if hitherto we needed, let's say, 250 to bring in these finished products, that is enough to satisfy the whole nation. And oil prices are within the 3-digit figure. It is inevitable that we'll need something like, twice of that, if not more. And so the 450 they are estimating, it's just logical. And so that will mean that we're going to have a lot of strain on the greenback, that is the dollar. And that's why we've been calling for the fact that, we have to have a kind of pressure relief for the dollar. Should anything happen that there's so much pressure on it as we are talking now, then, we should have an alternative to go. So yes, if the inevitable become inescapable, and what is the inevitable here? If the central bank lost the capability of getting the required or guaranteeing the required amount of cash, as in greenbacks, dollars, to the importers to bring in finished products, there's going to be product shortage. There's no two ways about that. So, but they are still working around the clock. Let's hope that, they are able to organize forces, get dollars available for them to be able to bring in finished products. But why do we have to even depend so much on the external forces for our destiny? That is not the way to go. So I think, we have to tread cautiously, and whatever forces that they are galvanizing, NPA, Cyborg, and then, the central bank, they should just try to make that available for the importers to guarantee the required amount of finished product that is needed for the nation. Already product prices are very high. So should it come to the fact that they need to ration the products, it's going to be very difficult. And that will further exacerbate what the consumer pays at the pump.
Your final thoughts, though, what homegrown solutions must be prioritized to avert a possible shortage of fuel?
Yeah, so directly with respect to this particular situation, we just need a pressure relief for the dollar. The situation is just about the dollar. And global price already how we are struggling with that. Now the forex element has come to play, and the only credible pressure relief for the dollar at this moment is to minimize the quantum that we use to import the dollars. In other words, if you are able to source some of this product locally, that would be the way to go. It means that if we needed 450, probably we can source some of the product locally. And sourcing the product locally, the only credible conduit is to have a local refinery. So yes, local refinery should be a pressure relief, because it will give a lot of space. It will give a lot of advantage for a breathing space for the dollar and even our cedi. That will be a breathing space. Number two, I think we need a huge storage capability. That has already been called. That has already been my call. If you have huge storage capability and with a running and a robust refinery, I mean, these are the ways that you can relieve a situation like this.
Right. Thank you so much, Dr. Yusuf Sulemana. He's an energy specialist. Thank you so much for your thoughts. Away from that, the Veterinary Services Department is appealing for operational funds to help fight the bird flu disease in the country. According to the department, it will need more logistical support to control the spread of the disease. Deputy Director of the Veterinary Services Department, Dr. Joseph Kofi Abu, who spoke to Joy Business, warned the outbreak will be much more severe if the department is not supported.
Well, obviously, these are challenging times for the poultry farmers. They have to grapple with the high cost of operating as well. And so are you saying there's nothing that can be done in terms of reducing or reviewing the charges? Because I've heard them also say...
No, we don't charge. We are not charging them a penny.
You're not charging them a penny?
We charge them, but we collect nothing from them. We give them the disinfectant free. Even, we go to the farms, and most farmers don't give us even water. So I'm not sure they are talking about the high cost of the operation, but they are talking about us giving them disinfectant and not coming back to them. But under the circumstances, veterinary services is doing its best to control and stop the spread of the disease. As of now, we don't have any operational fund that has been disbursed to the regional veterinary officer to carry out this disinfection. I and my staff, we are using our own monies to trek to farms day and night and work and come back and bring the results.
But I want us to, in the next 1 minute, talk about how well we are doing in fighting the outbreak of the bird flu. Are we making progress?
Okay. Yeah, the outbreak started in July 2021, precisely 8th July. And as of today, 129 farms affected. In 2021, 66 farms were affected, and these farmers who were due for compensation have been compensated. As of today, 63 farms are affected in 2022. If we look at the trend, and in 2021, in January, we had 25 outbreaks. In February, we had 19. In March, 1. In April, nothing. So from March to April, we knew we had controlled the disease. But in May, we have 3 outbreaks in Greater Accra. In June, we have 15, and there are still some pending at the laboratory. Meaning that the disease is coming back.
Officer of the Agribusiness Chamber, Anthony Morrison, is concerned the poultry industry is collapsing. He's calling for special attention to revive it.
Let's do, in the next 1 minute, talk about how well we are doing in fighting the outbreak of the bird flu. Are we making progress?
Okay. Yeah, the outbreak started in July 2021, precisely 8th July, and as of today, 129.
We apologize for the wrong insert. Moving on, economist Professor Peter Korte is urging more investments in large-scale commercial farming to boost the agric sector. The agric sector led the first quarter growth rate of the country's economy, expanding by 5.6%. Speaking to Joy Business, Professor Korte, who is also the director of the Institute of Statistical, Social and Economic Research, said he is not surprised about the economic expansion of the agric sector, though the sector could have done better.
I'm not too surprised. It could have been better. It could have been better if we had inputs, we had fertilizers and other things. But I'm not too surprised because the effects of this Russian-Ukraine war started in 2022. I think people invest in agriculture prior to this war. So some of the output we are reaping in the first quarter of 2022 as a result of investment made earlier. But I must say that if it had not been this war, as well as COVID and other things that had affected cost of input, agri would have grown much faster than we are witnessing now.
And I guess what beats people is that we are not seeing that level of impact trickle to, let's say, the farmers and also translate in, for instance, the availability of food, because you've complained recently of shortages and of hikes in prices.
Yes, that is understandable because if you look at Ghana is not insulated. We don't live on an island. Look at the Sahel region. They have had, since last year, have had challenges with their weather, with the agricultural systems. Apart from Burkina Faso, most of the countries surrounding us, especially those in the Sahel region. So a lot of food gets moved out of Ghana to those regions. If you go to the north and undertake a survey, you will find that a lot of the food we produce here gets exported to this country. So in as much as we are producing, the demand outstrip however much we are supplying. That's why we don't feel it here. They are prepared to pay higher prices. People are, even despite the ban on exportation of some food crops, people still smuggle them outside the country. So that's how come we are not feeling the impact of how much we are producing in terms of lower food prices. There is a lot of demand from our neighbors.
And does it also go to say that government's programs are working? For instance, the Planting for Food and Jobs program, the agric minister says he will score himself 100% for execution. We know that there are other people who have criticized the program and said it hasn't been that effective. What does it say about government's interventions in the sector?
Well, I think the interventions have been good, except to say that there is room for improvement. We have to support the value chain process. If you provide fertilizers, you provide inputs, yet your warehouse system is not ready at the time, if you provide all of that and your roads are not good, you have not achieved the 100%. So I think it could have been better.
We'll take a quick break. We'll bring you more. Hello and welcome. You're still watching Business Live here on the Joy News channel. Parliament Tuesday passed the long-awaited Standards Authority Bill, which seeks to regulate the standards of manufactured product from local and international sources. Director General for the Ghana Standards Authority, Professor Alex Dodu, says the passage will ensure the country avoids being used as a dumping ground for substandard goods. He joins us via Zoom. Thank you so much, sir, for your time. Tell us more about this bill and what it's in it for the economy.
Joy, for having me on this program. The passage of the Ghana Standards Authority Act, or the bill, into law this week on Tuesday by Parliament comes less than 2 months after the Cabinet of the Republic of Ghana had also approved Ghana's first ever national quality policy. The bill, as well as the policy, is keen to ensure that the quality of goods and services, I think we focus a lot on goods, but it's about ensuring that every process we use in Ghana, every product we either import, locally manufacture or supply, and every service offered in the Republic of Ghana, as by law established, meets international standards. Ghana, we all know our problems, and government is keen, and GSA is keen to lead the era of job creation and industrialization. And it starts with one thing: standards and quality. These are not just about the products. Indeed, our services, our mindsets, the way we approach everything has been given a renaissance by the passage of this bill, because as the Director General for the Ghana Standards Authority, the law empowers me to ensure that, one, Ghana has the best applicable and available international standards for its goods and services and processes. And that, two, these are enforced. And three, and super important, there are specified penalties for lack of enforcement. For us, this is a good day for Ghana, because it marks the beginning of our industry beginning to have a mindset that quality and standards will drive trade. For consumers, you should begin to demand of us, whether it's the GSA or the regulators with whom we shall be working, that you will not accept anything which is second class. It must be world class. And I know a few people might say, oh, talk is cheap. I beg to differ. Through the wisdom of Parliament, the governing board of the new GSA will have the Association of Ghanaian Industries represented. Hitherto, we had a board of 6 appointed by government. Now, AGI is there, Customs is there, and about 13 others, 2 of whom must be women. I want to believe it's one of the first, if not the only bill, where there's a specific provision for 2 women appointed specifically to serve on it. Because at the end of the day, it's fair to know that when it comes to quality and standards issues, the gender that do not belong to tend to be extremely conscious and careful. And that is proven by a lot of research. So we have to accept it. That at the end of the day, we need to bring the best brains and the best Ghanaians to create the jobs we need in the industries we want.
We also know that you will be taking over as the next president of the African Organization for Standardization. Tell us what that means for you and the continent.
So the Standards Authority Bill Act has been passed into law. On the 30th of June, I will be assuming position as the president of the African Organization for Standardization for a 3-year term. Now, ASO represents all national standards bodies on the continent, and it's an African Union organ. It is not by accident or mere coincidence that the location of the African Continental Free Trade Area in Accra facilitated the choice of the heads of standards authorities in Africa to make myself the leader. So I am a beneficiary of the AFCFTA Secretariat being located in Accra.
Right. Thank you so much, Professor Alex Dodu. He's the Director General for the Ghana Standards Authority. Thank you so much for your time. And that's how we end Business Live here on the Joy News channel. Thank you so much for watching. You can visit myjoyonline.com/business for more. I am Beverly Broohm. Have a good evening.